So what the hell? All right, let's see. Let me see if I remember how to do any of this. It doesn't look like it. But that's part of the challenge.
Charm.
It is. It's part of the something. Oh my gosh, that's music.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. Well, that was interesting. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Gaming Workshop. It has been way too long. 5 or 6 weeks, give or take. I'm glad you guys could make it. Glad we could come back. I mean, you know, some of you guys know I was away for surgery. You can see I got a nice fancy scar. I figure I'll give it a couple of more weeks, and then we'll come up with a really good explanation for the scar. Something that can be, you know, legend and lore. Bada Boomer, legend and lore. But I am Bada Boomer. This is the Gaming Workshop. This is a show, or, well, I guess a podcast, as you young folks call it, where we talk about DayZ Underground, which is a server that we play in the game DayZ. DayZ is a survival horror, open world, sandbox, sort of amazing, sort of painful game that we all love to play together on DayZ Underground, which you can find at dayzunderground.com. And that's pretty much that. Well, I'm ending that really quick. All right, there we go. So it's really great to be back. We're going to have nothing but technical difficulties all day, because that's just what you do after you come back from a long break. We've also got a panel. First time we've ever had a panel on the show. And I don't mean like wood paneling and crap. I actually put nice drywall up behind me. But no, we have several community members from Doug. I haven't forgotten who any of them are, by the way, just so you know. But we'll get to them in a minute. We do have Joe Fraser with us. Yeah, there you go. God, what's his name? Dean, Fergus, somebody. You guys might have heard of him. I don't know.
No, not really.
That's it. We've got Cain the Messiah. He's in here somewhere. And Censor. That's everybody, right? Hey, you are. What's up, man? So, welcome everybody. I'm glad you guys are here. Let's turn this down. We've got a lot to get into today. And I'm actually, you know what's funny is that I'm the utmost professional at this. And so, which you know is never true when I say that. And, you know, I've spent the last, I want to say 2 weeks, week and a half, 2 weeks, planning for this return show. Because we've had a good bit of discussion again in the Doug Discord, which, by the way, I finally muted and has been glorious. I hate to say it because, you know, a lot of people love the Doug Discord, but it actually, my stress level just went away. It was pretty nice. Not completely, but, you know.
When you say muted, do you mean like you were getting notifications for like every single
hell
message?
No. Oh, God, no. No, I meant that. I meant that I don't even get the little white icon next to the Doug thing anymore.
Yeah, no,
so I'm like,
I just mute every Discord server every time I join one.
It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, I see that little, and I want to click on it. It's just there, and I'm like, if part of me just wants it to go away, but then once I click on it, it's Doug, and I love Doug, I love the community. So as soon as I click on it, I'm like, oh, what's this? Oh, what's this? You know, and then we get on each other's nerves sometimes. You know, it's just like, I get frustrated.
It's a rabbit hole.
I read it way too much.
You guys. I know you guys
it
all
for about a year and a half, and I can recommend. Like, I'm in there now because I have to do things for my group, but otherwise, probably.
I'm gonna need to soon.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Plus, you know, I have the helpful role, which is nice, but I don't really talk on Discord that much, so. You know, I feel like it's a little more honorary than anything, but I do help people when they DM me and stuff, and that's nice. There's that, and then of course the Gaming Workshop stuff. It's good for me to read it because I get show ideas, topic ideas and stuff from a lot of the debates and things that happen on Discord. It's just best maybe when I don't insert myself, and it's very hard for me to not want to insert myself, you know, into discussions because, you know, this, I mean, look what I'm doing for a living. I'm sort of trying to, whatever, semi-pro. I don't have a nice
opinion for a living.
I need a nice Will Ferrell afro if I'm going to go semi-pro. If anybody has seen that, you get it. It's fun. Anyway, oil myself down. Moving on. Wait, that was for a different show. Anyway, All right, so basically, what I wanted to cover real quick is, since we've had this really long break, we've had some new people coming in and this whole thing, is just kind of talk about the show real quick and what it's about and why I'm doing it and why we're participating in it. The Gaming Workshop is called the Gaming Workshop for a reason. Otherwise, if we were just here to chat about Doug, it would be called, I don't know, the Talking Doug or something. But no, it's the Gaming Workshop. And what I had noticed after a couple of months of playing on the server, that there were quite a few people who were really good at one type of gameplay. Oh, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. But we have, people that are really good at like one form of gameplay that we have here, play styles or whatever, but not necessarily have a lot of experience with other things, like their PvPers who have not really role played much, and that sort of thing. And so, in talking to a lot of different people, I realized, well, it might be some benefit to the community to talk about roleplay and how we play on the server and that sort of thing. And then it became, over the next few weeks, it became like it was going to be like a class kind of thing, which I'm glad it didn't turn out to be that, because, whatever. I enjoy the casual discussions that we have on this show way more than I would if I was like, all right, take out your textbooks and start writing down things. No, we're not going to do that here. But that was the original premise of the show. And of course, it has metamorphosized into a Doug talk show. And so, that's what it is. So I can't really deny that. Don't really want to change the name. I still like the name. I don't know. We can all talk about that later. But the main thing, though, that got me, there are a few things that I really liked about the server, okay, that brought me on. Jari recently interviewed me, which is on the Doug Wiki, the interview. And in that interview, I talk about how, I'm a hardcore, well, not a hardcore role player, but I'm a lifelong role player. I mean, I started playing games like officially with rules and all that like 35 years ago. And my experience, of course, has spanned video gaming all the way through from Pong, which I did not own. My neighbor owned a Pong, but I did have an Atari 2600. That was the first one that I had, all the way through to now, where I've got a double monitor set up, build my own computers, that whole thing. So I know a little bit about this, but the problem is, okay, is like I do feel like I have a lot of expertise. The problem is that a lot of the subjects that we discuss are subjective. It's a matter of opinion, and that's what makes it difficult to try to come out and be like, hey, I'm going to teach you guys how to do things. No, because I can't really do that, because a lot of it is it's personal perspective, and that's one of the things that we're going to talk about today. It's why I wanted to have so many people on with various perspectives, so that because it's not the Bada Boomer show. I just host the show. It's about us and the community and Doug. One thing, though, that I would like to start the show with, and like I said, I'm not going to have a long droning monologue. I'll just go ahead and start bringing some stuff up, and we'll talk about it. I'm going to show you this in the best way a boomer can, because I just haven't set up all my stuff, like being able to throw up images and that sort of thing. But one thing that I did, okay, when I first joined this, oh gosh, man, I'm jumping all over again. See, this is, bring it in.
That's how I tell a story as well, don't worry.
Just bring it in. Okay, we're good. Before I get to this, the interview with Jari, okay, asked me, how did you discover Doug? Or what was it about Doug that brought me into it, right? And there were a couple of things. The first was all the emphasis and mentions of role play. Now, I know that there's the organic stuck on the front of that. We'll talk about that in a few minutes as a group. But I definitely wanted to find something that reminded me of tabletop role-playing, the stuff that I used to do well before video games kind of ruined the acronym, at least to me. We'll get to that again in a second as well. There was also a lot of mention about being, creators, content creators, and that sort of thing, in a lot of the stuff that I had read last year. And that drew me in quite a bit. And then there's the whitelist. Now, whitelist is gets its own show most of the time if we talk about it. So there's really not much point in bringing it up too much. But I just consider a whitelist to be an opportunity to bring like-minded players together. Now, you might wonder what that means when we cater to all play styles. And I use the air quotes because we don't technically cater to all playstyles. We just don't, because we have a don't be a jerk rule, and that limits people in certain ways, you know, and it's designed to help keep us all playing fairly together. But those three things together are really what brought me to Doug. And then, of course, as I started to play, I just fell in love with the whole thing, the whole tension and fear and, you know, the struggle to survive with basic needs, the whole thing. I mean, Doug's a great server. But we do have issues, right? Because we're trying to blend various play styles together, and I think the holy trinity here is, and I don't think anybody will disagree, is roleplay, PvP, and KOS. Okay, and I like to talk about we as a community mention these things separately. I like to look at them separately as well because there's a bit of a different mindset involved with each of them. But what we're trying to do is blend all of these things together in a way which is unprecedented, really. You don't find this in many games or servers or communities where you can really blend these things together well enough to where people get along and enjoy knowing each other. That's why we have to have extra things like OOC, out of character communication, getting to know people, realizing, by the way, that when you do that a lot of people that you thought you had nothing in common with or couldn't get along with because your characters have conflict, you find that you actually have a lot more in common than you think. So, you know, it's a comfortability level. If you want to get to know your fellow players, I highly advise it. I don't think you should rush into it. I think it's fun to experience the server and try to get a feel for things, playing it blind, so to speak, to where you're just experiencing it. But at some point, it does really help to, you know, come out and talk to people and actually get to know people, maybe find a group, you know, and that sort of thing. But the reason why I brought all that up and led with the purpose of the show and all of that is because, you know, the show does tend to focus a little more on role play than it does on other aspects of the game. The reason for that, first of all, is, again, I started out as a role player. I mean, again, you know, I'll play PvP games all day long. I mean, if I get a right group of people together or I'm feeling it, you know, I love PvP. It's fun. I mean, it's competitive. I love competition. It's just a little trickier in a setting where most people are playing all the time, you know, and you're living an alternate life and building things up. And it's not just, oh, log in, grab a gun and go shoot. The vast majority of DayZ servers are like that, where you can just log in and just go find stuff and just go shoot people. I tried to take some time over the last few weeks and, you know, re-experience some other servers like I did a year ago. Because I started playing DayZ a year ago, August. So, and I just want to make sure that things were still the way I remembered them. And they were. I mean, I'd get on like a vanilla server and play for, I am going to talk forever. I get on a vanilla server and play for, you know, 20, 30 minutes. I'm lucky if I haven't died twice already. I mean, it's like interactions, kind of whatever. And so then I went and tried, you know, a couple of known other roleplay servers, not DayZ RP, because you need to be whitelisted for that, but like Day One, things like that. And I found, and this isn't a scientific sample, but I found that there was kind of a mix of people that you can interact with. Still, most of the time I was just dropping every so often. And it's harder for somebody like me to really do that because, I mean, unless that's what I'm there for. If I could go on a DayZ server, guys, and we can just play PvP or do all that stuff. I really miss the gunplay tests that we were doing. That was super fun. You know, maybe I'll get together with some of you guys sometimes and y'all can take me out and we'll just go hunting. That'd be fun, but be that as it may. There is a bit of a discussion that goes on from time to time about whether or not you could classify Doug, DayZ Underground, as a roleplay server. Now, I've realized in the last year that this has opened up a huge can of worms, okay? First of all, ever since episode 1, I have called Doug a roleplay server. To me, it is absolutely a roleplay server. In fact, I really don't even like the term organic anymore. And again, we'll get to that in a minute. I'm more, I guess I like the idea, the term genuine. Like it's a genuine roleplay experience that you get on Doug, because people interact. We try to build. We're trying to, come back from the apocalypse, basically. But there's also the people who will, try to take advantage of you or kill you to try to take your stuff because they're trying to survive. I mean, there's a lot of danger involved, not just from the PvE elements, like the infected and the animals and whatnot, but from other players. And this all adds a certain amount of tension that, to me, enhances my roleplay experience. The reason why, now I want you to understand, I didn't invent this. Like, I did not just say, I'm going to declare Doug a roleplay server. I was actually working off of, I know this is old, this was last year, and this is my boomer ability. I hope you guys can see that. I will read it to you. It's a Discord message from Recluse, who's one of the admins. I don't know. Anyway, and it says, we are a roleplay server. While we do not require it, we recognize that it is the core of our community. Now, I'm not saying that Recluse, because Recluse is an admin, I'm not saying that he is the end-all be-all of anything. But what I am saying is that when I started playing, and I first got on the whitelist last year, I went back and I researched a lot of stuff. I went back and read a lot of Doug Discord and a lot of the Reddit posts and that sort of thing. And when I came across comments like this, it made me feel like, well, this is a real roleplay community, right? And then I've got into certain discussions on Discord where I was like, early on, I was getting KOS'd a lot and I didn't really feel like there was any interaction. And so I'd go to Discord, just like many people, and, complain. Okay. I'll just say it. That's what it was. And, I even went so far as to say that this is not a roleplay server, that you guys are misrepresenting the server because, and I love this comparison. It really drives the point home sometimes. And that is that I cannot force anybody to roleplay with me. But anybody can force me to PvP with them just by attacking me. So, to me at the time, it was definitely not kind of what I was expecting. And I had to grow. I had to change and adapt. And I learned that it's not just me playing on the server. It's not just people who play the way I do, but we are all trying to come together, again, to, give a place to where all these people with different backgrounds play experiences can really enjoy their time together. And I'm all for that. I mean, I think that's fantastic. It's very, very difficult to do. But I just wanted to emphasize, and this wasn't to single out Recluse, I just wanted, you guys to know that I didn't invent calling it a roleplay server. This is the impression that I had when I first joined the server. Some people have issues with calling it a roleplay server. And I think at this point, if you guys on the panel want to jump in on this, I don't have any problems with that. But you will just interrupt me. I'll stop talking. I promise.
I feel like labeling Doug is like a very long-lived server, and obviously it's been through fucking over 7 years now. It's been around. I feel like it's pretty tricky to label because I guess Doug is just kind of Doug. I suppose the organic side of things, it just means obviously they don't strictly force RP, but it still has RP aspects and some obviously like metagaming rules and stuff like that. So it's a tricky thing to label, and I mean, to be honest, I feel like both sides have valid arguments. Yeah,
I have to agree with you there. I do think it's very difficult to label it as one specific thing, and I'm willing to relent on that. I'll be honest with you. I feel like the entire problem has just been mainly the gaming industry. And that's because having watched it grow and develop over the decades, because they've never gotten it right. Like, as far as like what role playing was when we were tabletop role playing, and interacting with each other and all that, I've really not seen a game get it right. The closest that I've seen, really, and I know that it's not the only one, because GTA 5 is like the most popular role play thing on Twitch right now. It's really crazy. So it's not just DayZ, but most of the games, and this is where I get it, because people seem to associate roleplay with scripted stories and whatnot. That's not the community's fault or players' fault or any of that. It's the gaming industry's fault, because when they introduced role playing into video gaming, that's literally what it was. It was a linear storyline. I don't consider Dragon Warrior, Final Fantasy, I don't even consider Elder Scrolls really a true role-playing game. It's a video role-playing game, but there's little room for creativity, original thought, actually being able to bring these characters to life through our acting or whatever. To me, that's really the essence of role play, because we're playing the role of a character that we've devised, and you don't even have to devise it. I mean, you could play a pre-made character like you do in most of these games, but you're still limited in what you can do. And I am aware that there are DayZ servers that function that way. So I'm having to adjust my thinking as well, because when I say role play server, it could mean 4 or 5 different things to 4 or 5 different people. Right?
I think it's just semantics at the end of the day. I think the most important thing everyone recognizes on Doug is that there's a bunch of different people all looking to have fun in slightly different ways. And that variety is what ends up making it fun.
All right, if I may, the semantics argument, I get it. People that don't know what semantics are, it's basically, how would you describe it? Having 2 definitions, basically, or using 2 different terms to describe the same thing. It's
debating the fine print of a sentence or label or title instead of the broader meaning, if that makes sense. I think you and I would have very similar views of what Doug is, but I'd call it organic roleplay, you'd call it roleplay. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, to me at least.
No, that's fair, and a lot of people do look at it that way. The only reason why I would disagree with it being just a semantics issue is because it's the way we approach, and this is why I get hot in Discord sometimes. Okay, I'll just go ahead and tell you. And I don't have a right to, by the way. Nobody has a right to get angry or be angry, express a bunch of anger in Discord. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you feel that way, just take a breath. You know what? You might have to come back 10 minutes, 20 minutes later, and the conversation's over, but you can still dip in and get in a few reasonable comments. Just don't let it get you hot, right? But the semantics argument to me is kind of, because what it is like, if we all kind of sing a similar tune, not the same tune, but if we're, kind of saying the same things, then when new players come in, they're going to be influenced by the things that people are saying. So, and when I was saying what gets me kind of hot is when I'm in the Discord and I'm just reading, general chat or whatever, and people are just glorifying KOS and all this other stuff. To me, that detracts a good bit from the roleplay enjoyment, or really even just regular enjoyment of the game to some extent. Again, this is also why I wanted to have so many people on of different opinions, because I know
I
that
definitely think,
you guys see it differently, or some of you do.
I definitely think it's a conversation worth having. I'm not trying to say that agreeing on definitions isn't a conversation worth going through. I think something that people miss out on when we have this debate a lot is that everyone's here for the same reason. At the end of the day, we're all doing something in our spare time to have fun, and what makes Doug so interesting is the richness, the fear of harm or death, as you say, but also the depth of the interaction you can get. So it's important to define terms, like you've been discussing. I think it's important to be on the same page going forward. But the positive that people miss out on, I think, is that we're all sort of kindred spirits to an extent. We're all here for the same reason.
That's a good point. That's very well said. Somebody else is saying, as a longtime D&D player and runner, something to consider is that role play changes as the times change. That's absolutely true. I mean, everything changes over time. As I get older, I get more irritable and kind of get off my lawn about language and words, because to me, words are very important. It's how we communicate with one another. And I always felt like it was very important for us to agree on the definition of terms so that we know what we're all talking about when we talk. Now, again, the role play thing is not set in stone and not something that, is easily definable. Okay. Because again, it is different for different people, but it's hard for me. And I know I'm not the only one that it's difficult for. So I definitely don't mind talking about it, but I can only speak for myself in this regard. And it is difficult for me because I expect something a little more specific when I use certain terms, you know, and then when it's not quite that, it's a little trickier. That's why I do like that we call it organic roleplay, in the sense that if you don't overthink it, organic roleplay is a really good term, because something organic is just something that happens naturally, right? Some people take it to mean different things. We've discussed this on the show before. Some people take it to mean different things, like you can't script out or pre-plan anything, because that's not organic. Some people look at it like, well, if it happens, it happens, and that's the organic aspect. Because so even on that term, even I know there's a definition listed on the website. The definition listed on the website is essentially whatever happens. Just don't be a jerk about it. I think we could all agree on that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I mean, because again, like I said, I did the server tour recently, and did not find and experience anything like Doug. I mean, I really haven't, and it's a wonderful thing to be able to say, especially because I've entrenched myself in something that really feels unique in a way. I've actually given this a lot of thought recently. Thank you guys for the follows. When there are different things about this server that make it unique, right? We've got, a mod team, and we've got very talented artists who create all these different items and objects that are brought into the game. We have a very well thought out and manicured CLE, Central Loot Economy, drop tables, basically. That really bring out the hardcore aspect of trying to survive in an apocalyptic situation as best you can in a video game. We've got people who roleplay and people who I really like Doug in the sense that you can come in as a nobody, really make a name for yourself, actually affect the lore of the server and even the map and all of that, become a part of any of this stuff. Anybody is capable of doing this here on Doug. You can't say that about most other servers, man. You just can't. So we really bring something unique, and it's something that I'd really like to preserve, It's interesting to me, though, because I do come from this background. I do have these certain expectations and all of that. And I think it's important that I express all of this, because a lot of other people will come with preconceived notions and ideas, and ought to see that what you really get out of this server is letting yourself go and your preconceived notions, just loosening them a good bit, and really exploring and interacting with all of the different possible things you can encounter. I mean, I was watching, I could talk about this situation, right? I was hanging out in the street, my character was, with a couple other guys, and all of a sudden one of them falls over dead. Crap. I run out of the way, no problem. The funny thing about this is that I'm so not in tune with the PvP in DayZ. I had no idea where the shot came. It actually came from a completely different direction than I thought. Although I did run in the right direction. I ran out of sight. But it was funny because the guy who shot us posted the video of the shot, because it was an amazing shot. I mean, I think most of you have probably seen it. It was he said it was 800 meters. I know I couldn't have made that shot. It was pretty awesome. And I gave it a thumbs up, okay? It was a KOS attack, and actually it turned out to be pretty awesome. They ended up bringing us a bunch of things. So thanks, guys. But in reality, though, it was a situation where, 6-8 months ago, I'd have been like, oh, come on, But today I was like, or that day I was like, and it was just immediately into action. We're in, oh, crap, we're under attack. And it was just something that we played out. And the guy who went down wasn't mad. Even if it had been me, if I had been shot, I don't think I would have been mad. If anything, I would have been bummed that I would have to miss the rest of the encounter. But yeah, I think my attitude would have been really good about it. And like I said, I like to talk about those kinds of things because I want, people to understand that even though things are, if things are really close to what you want, but not quite there, just, it's funny, Seymour Griffey today in Discord said something like, oh, just, let it happen. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's really kind of how you have to go. Because if we did not have that, the server would not be nearly as tense or horrifying. I mean, this is a horror game, for crying out loud. It's a zombie apocalypse. You're supposed to, have things to be scared of.
Yeah, it's something I was going to say to you earlier. When I do get shot or killed. Obviously, there's short-term frustration that I've lost my stuff. You know what I mean? But if you take a longer view of it, it's absolutely necessary for the server to be doing what it is doing, creating that atmosphere.
Yeah.
If there wasn't any fear of consequences, any fear of reprisal, then would any of your actions carry any weight?
If I was one of the interactions I point to quite a lot was the first time I ever ran into Dam back when I was just like a solo, like probably about a month or two into my time on the server. They basically pinned me and a couple of friends inside of a house we were cooking in Berezino. And obviously, when we first heard like footsteps and voices outside, we all freaked out, pulled our guns, and trained them on the doors, because we had pretty much me and my friends had came from like PvP servers before that, so we were just expecting we were going to get absolutely rushed and then put down. But then the people outside, I think it was Dave that was leading the interaction, who's now in character. Dave is now dead, so rest in peace. But he actually spoke to us, was like, come on, we can do this. There's two ways we can do this. Be smart about this. Think about what you're doing. And he actually talked us down and got us to like lower our guns. And that ended up being one of, well, basically the interaction that really sold me on that whole Doug atmosphere, because I'd previously only really came in for the hardcore aspect of it, but that was what got me into the roleplay. It adds just so much more weight to it, because I mean, he could have very well just gunned us all down in there and took our shit, but he didn't.
Well, I mean, that's how it goes. I'll tell you right now, you know, we in our area map are having problems with a certain group. And I actually made the comment out of character, I think yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, that I was like, man, you know, I was like, it's nice. I'm actually out here running around, constantly looking over my shoulder, trying to make sure that I'm not getting snuck up on by somebody from this group. And it was nice to have that fear. And the people in the group I generally respect and have, you know, all the crap, man, I'm starting to lose my words already. I have all the faith in them that, you know, that they're good players. You know what I mean? Like, they're not just, you know, jerks trying to ruin my experience, you know? So it makes it a lot easier for me. And it's actually been a lot of fun lately because I have not had that level of tension in a while. So there is a lot to be said for, you know, the overall theme that we're trying to build and grow. It's funny, my character, you know, my main character is a very positive and uplifting person and stuff. So if you encounter him, you know, chances are you're going to have a positive encounter with him. But at the same time, it's like, that's what I experience a lot of now. So it's a little refreshing. And I wanted to get that out there. It's a little refreshing to have some of that fear and uncertainty brought back into my playing. Excuse me. Just a couple of comments from chat real quick. Of course, Ammo agrees. You know, Ammo's been around forever. Without KOS, there's no real danger on Doug. Now, I will. Well, he said we need that danger, or it will turn into something not Doug, and that's true. I do think it's funny, and I don't know if you guys have an opinion on it, but I read in Discord a lot that there are people that really don't like the PvE right now. And I find it kind of hilarious because I'm really enjoying the PvE, especially after I've learned how to deal with, you know, the zombies being hit harder and all that. And they're a lot harder in groups and stuff to, you know, you gotta think more when you're fighting them. But I thought it was funny that a lot of the people that I know to really love PvP can't stand the PvE right now. And it makes me laugh because I'm like, it's so funny how drastically different we all look at these things, you know? And it's just weird to me. You know, and I think there's a little bit more danger now just from some of the PvE elements. But even I have pretty much, at worst, I might get knocked out, and I know that I can just lay there for a minute and then get up, and all the zombies will be gone. So it's usually not that big of a deal. But anyway, it's different than when you're just standing there and you just fall over dead. And Roy Gatto said he understood. Let's see, what did he say? He said people who are saying KOS is roleplay is unironically really taking the piss. KOS is technically role play, but it's the worst one that members can do. So that's another opinion on it. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I was just saying I agree with that. I feel like
Okay.
I feel like a big problem is we treat like all playstyles equally when we really shouldn't. I feel like if you're a role player, you should definitely have more like the server in general should prioritize it more and like, cater to that playstyle more than like KOS or PvP, even though it's necessary. I don't think it should be like encouraged or treated with the same, you know, prioritization, I guess.
Well,
I
that
don't
is
really
kind
feel
oh,
like
go ahead.
I don't really feel like it's encouraged or anything like that insofar as the admins taking any role in that. I think
It's
the only
just-
way you could argue that is say, oh, it's easier to get gear by doing that.
I wouldn't say it's I don't think it's really encouraged. It's just more like it's just like something that, well, as Ammo said earlier, like if you weren't allowed to like shoot someone on sight, then it wouldn't really be dug because they would lose so much of that like danger and the organicness, I guess.
It should happen, but I don't think it should happen as much.
I'll be honest. I'll go out on a limb here. I haven't been KOS this wipe.
I have been, but only I haven't been mad about it at all, actually, which is really unusual. I mean, I don't get angry. Like I'm not like, oh, fuck this, and smashing my monitor or anything. I do have the sword for it. It's over there. Y'all saw it a few weeks ago. I could, but I'm not. I just don't do that. If anything, I'll walk away. I'll be like, screw this, I quit, and I'll walk away, and then I'll come back like half an hour later. Got to get back to my stuff. How it is. I mean, this freaking game, man. But no, the instances this time where I've been KOS'd have all been okay, because guess what? I'm not playing solo anymore. For those who don't know, Reverend Alessandro has joined the Black Cross. He's actually a volunteer now. Thank you very much. Nice long process there, but no, I enjoyed it. But the thing of it is that it's a different experience when you're playing the game as a solo player and compared to playing with a group. Because when bad things happen to you, and I do consider being killed a bad thing. I mean, come on. Everybody should, really. But when something like that happens and you're a solo player, it's a whole lot more difficult, or it's a completely different thing you have to do to get back to where you were, to regain your status quo. With a group, it's not so bad because, for one, you've got someone you can immediately vent to, and if anybody's around, they can come and help, and you might get your vengeance and all that. So there's all of that aspect, but it's also that you're usually not coming back to nothing, which sometimes happens when you're a solo player. And it can happen too if you're a group, if your place gets raided and all that stuff. But this is why I was talking earlier about how my tune has completely changed as regards to getting to know people out of character and finding people to play with and all that, because it really does. It takes a lot of the pressure off of things like just being killed randomly and whatnot.
I mean, especially since I joined DAM. I mean, wearing red, I feel, is a bit of something that can get you shot more than
red flag.
Yeah, if you wear red, then I feel like, especially if they see that armband, they're like, "Oh, it's DAM, open fire!" Because I mean, well, yeah, we fuck with a lot of people. I can't deny that. But I mean, yeah, I've been KOS'd a few times this wipe, but usually I'm just kind of like, fair enough. See a DAM member running around with a fucking AK in hands, I feel like, it kind of makes sense. One thing I've always liked to do, though, is when I get coasted, I mean, obviously, you can say to your buddies if they can, like, rescue you on the coast, but I try to do that as little as possible and just get off the coast myself, because, I mean, say one day I end up as a solo, and then I no longer have all my cushy group mates to rely on to rescue me from the coast, then I feel like that would be a bad spot to be in if I've spent the past year being babysat by my group mates.
Yep. I will tell you this. I have only had help one time getting off the coast, and I didn't need it. It was... I don't know if I wanted to out this. This was like the second day of wipe. Whatever. It was a while ago. And it's OOC information. Anyway, it's hilarious. So I spawned in Baronzino a second day on wipe. and found a car that somebody was obviously driving and wrecked, and it was damaged. It had 2 ruined tires and all this other stuff. And I was like, huh, you know, I've never built a car in DayZ before, and it only needs a radiator and a spark plug, and apparently somebody with my group had those things and came and joined me, which, by the way, I also found both of those things looting the town while I was waiting for him to show up. And we drove home. And I was like, okay.
Was this last wipe?
No, it was this wipe. It was the day 2
because I had an issue with that. I had a thing with 2 wipes ago in the same situation. The car was gone.
Yeah, I bet. I kind of thought what we had surmised was that somebody had built the car and was driving it, and then may have lag wrecked it or something, and then just. But there was like a jerry can of gas in the trunk and stuff, and I assumed that it was damned car. So I was like, dude, I don't know. This might not be the best thing, but there's no name on it, you know. It was just funny because it was like
fit in an FL.
It was nice. I actually love the concept of FL, by the way. But so anyway, so yeah, that was like the one time I've gotten help getting off the coast this white. And actually, I don't really I you know, because I played a lot on the coast for months, so I feel like I have a pretty good handle on survival. Now it does help when it's like whitelisted, you know what I mean? Because there's fewer people overall, and fewer people on the coast overall usually. So it's not as hard when there's a whitelist, but I like to think that I could still survive, within a few tries off the coast. So getting clipped like that, which was actually the point, isn't that destructive to me as it used to be. I did want to mention this comment. I'm trying to read through chat, guys. I'm copy and paste some stuff so I can try to read it because you guys are really having a lot of great comments. But Incinatius, I guess, said it's a mentality issue, talking about the PID. Because he says that you could start role playing. He said you could role play without needing your exact PID, which is absolutely true, and is one of the reasons why the Reverend's look has changed pretty consistently since I started playing him. I was at the very first was like, gosh, if I'm just gonna die, it'd be so great if I could just spawn in with just some basic clothes, so that I at least look the part. And that's kind of the thing when you're trying to play a theme character. You just want to look the part. It's just natural. But there's also something else that I've learned. If you guys some of you know what I'm up to with my character. My character's building a church that's not a traditional textured church. And the reason for that, or part of the reasoning was, I won't divulge all of it, but part of the reasoning was simple, that the church is anywhere, my character wants it to be. It doesn't have to be a building that looks like a church. And to me, that coincides with this comment because it's true. You don't have to look the part to play the part, and I think that's a great comment because I know quite a few people that do get stressed out, not being able to find their clothes and that sort of thing. And, it's true. I mean, even you think about it, right? We're role playing in an apocalypse situation. Walmart's not getting shipments in, you know what I mean? Clothes and certain styles and all that stuff. First of all, if you're trying to survive for your life, that's really probably going to be low on your list of priorities if you're going to survive, because it's usually not fashion that keeps you alive in the apocalypse. But it's a realistic aspect of the game, not necessarily being able to always or easily find everything that you want.
Well, I feel like, given the way Doug is, you say fashion doesn't keep you alive in the apocalypse. I honestly do feel like maybe because of the way I dress on Fergus that I've been spared from death a few times. Because people just look down their sights, see my skirt and legs, they're like, "Oh, it's Fergus," and run up and speak to me.
Yeah.
I think our armbands have saved us quite a few times from people. My armband saved me today, actually. I bumped into a mate on a military base, and he saw me a mile off because of my lime green armband.
Nice. See, it was like, yeah, that's funny. For me, it's the voice. If I get a chance to talk, I almost always get out of the situation if I get to talk.
To shoot my mate, and then I just heard Georgie's Welsh ass voice from over on the container.
I love that. That's something else I really like about this game. Oh man, because it's like, you know, a lot of people complain that the character models look alike, you know, and your PID is really what sets you apart and that sort of thing, and that's true. But you got to figure, man, to a lot of people from different areas and backgrounds and all that, people from other backgrounds and whatnot tend to look similar too, you know. So it's, to me, it's almost another realistic-ish aspect of the game. It would be nice if there were more character models, or if we had like Elder Scrolls sliders to where we can, you know, change our appearance and customize it and everything. But, you know, really it's just, you know, there's so many nuanced things in this game that strike me as either being realistic or simulating reality as best as you can hope for. And that's kind of one of them, you know, because if you see somebody off at a distance, you know, friend or foe, you're not quite sure. It might take you a minute to figure it out. You might need more than just looking at them to discern that. I don't know. Like I said, my opinion on a lot of this stuff has evolved substantially in the last year that I've here. And I did realize that, by the way. It's but at the end of this month, it'll have been a full year that I've been here.
I think the dominant theme
mind.
for most people with KOS is short-term frustration, long-term necessary.
Yeah. Well, see, that's kind of why I feel like, and again, if this is your dominant playstyle, I don't mean to minimize it, okay? But to me, it that's why it seems more like a necessary evil, or something that we tolerate. We talked about promoting it, certain playstyles in like Discord earlier, and that was one of the things that was getting to me. I think I'd started to mention it, and a couple other people had mentioned it, but it's that it's like the semantics thing. It's like if we're constantly talking about KOS, or, you know, laughing about it, or that it's fun or whatever else, the new people that come in who are seeing that, that's kind of the impression that they're going to get, that that's what the server is about. And again, I mean, I'm willing to admit that it's not just a roleplay server, right? Because we really do need all these other aspects to come in. But I don't really know that there's any. That's why I figured out earlier on, I was like, you know, we're not going to actually have any resolution to any of this by the end of our show, because again, a lot of things evolve and change. But you're right.
1 hour.
Yeah, that's it. So I mean, we gotta, you know, I think these discussions are good. The reason why I like these discussions is, for one, it keeps anybody out there from having to feel like they're alone. You know, because it's easy to feel that way when it seems like you're overwhelmingly, you know, people are overwhelmingly trying to push one thing over another. Because nobody should feel that way. And we try to be inviting and welcoming to everybody. Everybody has something that they can offer. Whether or not they choose to is up to them. But, you know, I mean, we're a very inclusive community as far as I've seen in the last year, I can tell. So it's
sorry.
No, go ahead. That's why I said you got to jump in, man. I'll shut right up.
I don't want to speak on Fergus's behalf here, because I haven't been in DAM for a long time. But being in an evil group, I don't think that necessarily excludes you from the idea of KOS being a necessary evil. I know I was in DAM for 2 years, and a lot of the time I'd look at someone, you know, 400 or 500 meters away, and think, oh, I'd really love to go up to that person and hold them up, or play blood bag roulette with them, or just generally do something silly and, you know, mess with them. But they're holding a gun in their hands, and I know they're going to shoot me if I try and do that. So why would I put myself at risk when my only real viable option for this interaction is bullets?
One thing that we would do a lot, and we still try to do this as much as we can now, obviously in those kind of situations, one thing I point to is leg breaking. When leg breaking got added back in and people would like fall unconscious after the leg got broken, that was something that we'd use quite a lot. We'd shoot them in the leg and then like run up, like beeline over to them, but now you wake up in like 6 seconds. I've been shot in the chest full on by a foul. That's a 308 round to my chest, and I wake up after 6 seconds. So
I've emptied a mag into someone's chest and had to switch gun to finish them off. And by the time I'd finished switching gun, they were getting back up.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It's like if Uncon got fit, but like I feel like right now KOS has been quite like I've seen people saying that it's been bad recently. Obviously, we have like your post-wipe chaos, but I feel like another thing is because putting people unconscious just isn't as viable anymore, because you're just uncon for like a few seconds and you get back up. Like I've had, I think, an encounter that Noodle, or well, Dexter of the Scribes had. He knocked somebody out and then like stood over them and was pointing his gun at them, told them to like put their hands up, back away, but that person's gun that they were holding previously was on the floor, so they just dragged their gun to their hand, and then just instantly raised it and shot him like right there because it was instant.
That's crazy.
I think something that people don't appreciate until they've played a significant amount of time in one of these groups. I point to Dam, Regime, even FL to extent. We don't really like do much hostile RP except holdups, but still sort of involved. It's actually quite difficult to do hostile RP. There is very much a fear of death. Even if you're in a group, there's a good chance you're going to get blasted.
I mean,
and you've got to approach these interactions in such a way. If you're looking for actual interaction, you've got to approach it in a very precise way to get what you want.
There's also a lot of people that I feel have the attitude that, like, well, we've bumped into a few people that as soon as they see us all like standing around them with their guns, and they're like, "Oh, I already know what's gonna happen. Just fucking shoot me. Just fucking kill me." And they're just like being all like Debbie Downer and so pessimistic about the whole interaction. Whereas if they were actually being like, I don't know, more positive, I mean, sure, if you've got like a bunch of guys pointing guns at your head, then there's only so much positivity can do. But I mean, it would a different attitude of that just because you're in a hostile interaction doesn't mean you're going to get your head blown off.
I said this 100
play
times
your cards right.
As my old character Hades. If anyone ever captured me on my Dam account, I would have sold everyone out in Dam. I would have given them all the info they wanted,
value for life
they needed to stay alive. That's value for life. I would have completely betrayed my group.
That's fun. That's fun.
Yeah, and like I probably wouldn't do that now because of the group I'm in and the character I play, but I probably still do whatever I could to stay alive. And I definitely not backtalk anyone who got a gun to my head.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Like they'll just.
I had a guy we held up for information saying, I think the first thing he said to me was, "I'm not afraid to die." I was just like, okay,
yep,
cool, see ya.
I feel like every playstyle is like difficult at times, but I feel like a hostile RP type playstyle is probably the easiest you could do, outside of just KOSing everybody.
I mean, well, when you're trying to like hold someone up, you're still putting yourself at risk. Like, say you approach someone in like Northwest Airfield, decide that you want to hold them up instead of shoot them, then as you're like, you've got a couple of guys like getting around them and like speaking to them, then they've got a friend in the bushes like a couple 100 meters away that just domes one of your guys. Then you're one man down, and you're gonna already have to like grab their stuff, bring it back, like basically interrupt whatever your plans were for the day to try and rescue your friend from the coast or whatever you want to do.
Well, I've always said is,
I'd say you're at considerably less risk than somebody like not holding a gun or not having those people around.
Well, I've always said about the comparison is, I think there is a pretty consistent barrier to entry in terms of difficulty for being a friendly player. It is hard. It's no cakewalk, but once you meet that barrier, it's pretty smooth sailing from there. What I will say about hostile RP is the barrier is very low. It's not hard to be hostile. You're right. It's a very easy thing to get into. You just start shooting people. But talking about doing it well over a consistent period, that like it's a minute to learn, lifetime to master sort of thing.
Absolutely. That you guys have brought up some fantastic points. Things that I haven't really thought about it in this regard, especially when you're talking about the limitations that the game itself brings. Like the unconscious thing not working the way it should. I mean, those are really good points that I think people should probably keep in the back of their mind, because it does limit the options, the way we can interact with it. It limits those options. And that's unfortunate. One thing I would like to point out, though, is because we always say KOS, like it's just KOS, but there are different types of KOS. I mean, I think most of the time when we say KOS, we're referring to just random KOS. It just happens out of the blue. But I mean, if you're like at war with another faction and you see them and shoot them, that is still KOS, but it's not random.
Yeah, I was
it's story related,
Yeah,
Um,
like 8 out of 10 times, KOS is garbage RP, like 100%. There are cases where it can be good, but those are pretty rare.
I
since
would
we're-
say
oh, go ahead.
if you're actively pursuing a conflict with the group, you should expect to get shot by them.
Right?
We pursued a conflict
Yeah.
with Blackcross, Service Vergino.
Yeah.
We essentially did a land grab on them, like, you know, we're
I mean, I
criminals.
feel I need not mention the old damn Torchwood conflict.
Yeah,
Taylor's oldest
that's
time,
another example. But
Mm.
you know, Blackcross got a whole bunch of other people involved. They got Fireflies involved, Dugout involved, Sentinels I think got involved as well, and it essentially involved Svergino being pretty much a war zone for about a month.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like if we want to exert our control over that town, we go there, and if we get shot, fair enough. You know, we put ourselves in that situation. We decided to extort people, and you know, we got to get what's coming to us for that.
It's like the
Or
old
maybe they've got to get what's coming to them for crossing us, you know.
Mhm.
it's like the old Pistoshka thing that happened earlier this year as well. Like the 506 versus the Wanderers, that town was a goddamn war zone for like a month
Yeah.
straight.
I think what didn't work there was I don't think both sides agreed on what they wanted to come out of that. I think we were really fortunate with the Black Cross. We
Yeah.
came to them before. We were like, look, we want to do this. We know it's maybe not what you're comfortable with as your normal RP, but it's an exciting opportunity. We're excited to see where it will go, even if that involves us taking an L or whatever. Are you happy with it? And they seem very happy with it. And I think it worked out pretty nicely for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent example of the way two factions can go at each other in a positive and even story based way. And what everything I've heard from about the damn Torchwood thing, I mean, I still have big props to Torchwood for allowing their roleplay to be completely altered by another group. The same with Forsaken Loyalists, you know, trying to, you know, come into Black Cross territory there. That is a remarkable instance. And I'm sure that this stuff happens elsewhere, and I'm just not aware of it. I wasn't involved with any of the OOC, anything that might have come from any of that that helped organize all this. But the impression that I got, because this is when I actually came to Severograd, the impression that I got was really nothing but respect, though, in talking to, you know, people from either side. And I believe that all comes down to just the way it was handled. You know, there's in the story base, there's, I mean, because again, the PvP, you can respawn, you can get your stuff back. That doesn't really solve anything. But being able to come together out of character, to be able to, you know, push a story in a certain direction. And for, again, like you said, Joe, being able to take the loss and being okay with that is just vitally important to having any successful conflicts on this server. Because
I think
the alternative is to run people off.
There's a natural propensity to want to be in control of your own fate, be the protagonist in your own story. And I think ultimately, to a certain extent, everyone gets that. You get to choose what direction you take, but to a certain extent, you don't get to choose that. You need to let other people affect your story as other people affect your life in real life. And if that doesn't happen, then it's somehow a little bit more hollow, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. A lot of the stories that I've written, if you were just to take the stories themselves and read them one after another, they might seem disjointed or like, you know, I really didn't know what I had in mind. No, I have a story idea in mind almost all the time when I'm doing things with my character. But the difference is that I do 100% allow and encourage people to get involved. And through those interactions, that story changes. Perspectives change. Things, you know, my character might move, and that could change everything, you know? So that's absolutely, I feel like that's, you know, integral to having a successful experience here, being able to roll with the punches, you know? Change your story. Don't have it be set in stone. You could have like an overall idea. I do still. My overall summary or idea outline is still there, but it's changed more times than I can count because of interactions with other people, which I find just fantastic. It's another thing I love about this place.
Another thing about brushing kind of on KOS as well. I mean, Yeah, about rolling with the punches. Like sometimes it's gonna happen. You'll have like a rough day, or you'll get caught by someone at a military base because they're quite shooty places. But I feel like the way I see it is it's just like kind of another adventure. I go back to the coast. I've definitely, I don't know, ended up going back to the coast, met some people I maybe wouldn't have if I hadn't gotten shot in that particular engagement. I mean, of course, just walking through a forest and then just getting insta black screen can be disheartening at times, but I like to try and see the positive side of it. Of, well, I mean, sure, I lost some gear, but at the end of the day, this could also, I'm going to be going out to get more stuff. I'm going to go around to loot again. Might meet some other people along the way. Might maybe see some people on the coast, interact with some people that I haven't really interacted with before. That sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's definitely that's definitely a benefit of ending up having to do something different than you planned.
Yeah.
I mean, there, you know, early on my experiences, once I got my feet wet and I really kind of understood what the server was about, I had experiences like that when I would stream Reverend Alessandro. You know, if he got killed by a crackhead, I'd be like, all right, well, I guess we're going to find out what's going to happen today. You know, I mean, this is, you know, it's obviously going to be something different. And sometimes I would like run into, it's great when I run into somebody and they actually know who my character is, but I've never met them before because they've heard of him or seen a tape. And then that like opens up a whole new avenue of interaction and role play. I ran into a guy just this wipe, actually. It was one of the times I was having trouble getting off the coast in like the first or second day. And ran into a guy who I'd only run into one time before, I think. I couldn't be completely sure, so I kind of acted like I didn't recognize him. But we ran around town for a little while, for Electro for a little while, and we separated for a little bit, and I got cornered and killed by zombies. He probably never doesn't know what happened to the Reverend then, unless he happened to have found me later. But it was interesting because I had an experience to play with, or an opportunity to play with somebody else that I never really get a chance to play with. And I find these to be hidden blessings, really. You know, and a lot of people will like coast themselves just to try to get the loot run back, which isn't a bad idea, especially if you're stuck in a town where there are a lot of people around. You know, finding the things you need can sometimes be difficult. So if you end up unexpectedly coasted, as we like to call it, that's actually, I like that term. That's another bright side. It's an opportunity to find something else on your way back. You know, I mean, there are so many different ways to look at it and positives to it that if you have the right mindset, you know, it will definitely outweigh the negatives. But that doesn't take away the frustration from it, though. I mean, you know, that just happens. There's no way around that. You're gonna get that, but you're gonna get that in any game, honestly, because you can't win everything. You can't win every time. So I guess a lot of it just comes down to being able to handle that, you know, being able to lose.
Making the best out of a shitty situation.
There you go. I mean, and that is life too. Again, like you mentioned, I mean, it's realistic because that's going to happen in life, even in our normal lives. You know, you just got to learn to go with it.
And looping this background before we start on, this is basically the meaning of organic to me. You know, stuff's gonna happen. Murphy's law. You've just got to go with the flow.
That is it.
Yeah.
But again, it was totally different for me once I had a group. I mean, I got to the point to where I had a base, as long as it wasn't raided, I at least had a place I could get back to. So I know that if I could just make it there, you know, I could, you know, try to survive and get back. But you know, I don't want to harp on the KOS thing forever because it's not going anywhere and it shouldn't go anywhere. It's just, it would be nice, I guess. I mean, there are a lot of things. I mean, we could just be hopeful and wishful in so many different ways, but it would be nice if there was a way for people to know, well, this guy just got KOS like 3 times. Maybe I shouldn't shoot him, you know, but again, it still takes away the organic and uncertainty nature of it, which just, you know, I mean, once you take that away, it completely changes the flow of the server.
The highs on Doug would be nowhere near as high without the lows, if that makes sense.
I think it's important to like maintain it being organic by including all these different types of play styles, but I definitely think there's a difference in what some people would see as their ideal balance between them. because like some people would prefer it for it to be, I don't even know, like 75% PvP and KOS and 25% roleplay, whereas I would see it like it should be like 80% roleplay and 20% everything else.
How do you like numericize that? Do you mean in terms of as an absolute percentage of every interaction you have?
No, just what people generally want the server to lean towards. Since it's organic and every playstyle is, for lack of a better word, encouraged, then they can kind of like, some people want it to be more KOS and more PvP, and there's times where it is, and there's times where it's more oriented towards roleplay.
Yeah, I'd say there's a normal distribution of dog players, if that makes sense. A lot of people are clustered towards the middle. They do a bit of both. You'll have to do a bit of both if you go to military bases, for example. And there'll be some people at one end who only PvP, and there'll be some people at the other end who only RP. And
I feel
where that balance lies is the only question.
I feel like another factor to factor in is the atmosphere of the server as well. Obviously, a couple wipes ago, we had that massive like East versus West war, and then I feel kind of when that ended, a lot of people, like the pendulum swung more towards the RP side of things. So people were like, okay, we just had a wipe of basically like shooting everything that moved from certain factions and certain groups and being like so jittery about like people and all that sort of thing. So it kind of went more to like RP for the following like wipe or so. But then that kind of, I don't know, maybe the people that liked a bit of action every now and then, liked some PvP, kind of were getting a bit bored, especially come the end of the wipe and building up to when the wipe was coming. So the server pop was a bit lower because of anticipation of that. But then now I feel like maybe it's kind of swinging a bit the other way, and we just need to give it time to find that balance, if that makes sense. Because a lot of the actions on the server kind of reflect the kind of mindsets of a lot of the players, whether it be big faction members or even down to your lowly solo crackhead on the coast with a chambered Makarov and a steak knife to his name.
Time is definitely an important factor, but I think that I don't really have any ideas in particular right now, but I think that we should do everything in our power to try to incentivize roleplay over everything else. Like, that should be the main focus. Everything else should be like a necessary evil.
I don't disagree with that in principle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that is the that's why I opened with the Recluse quote, because even though I can agree that we don't have to call it a roleplay server, I do feel like the core of the community are roleplayers. Like, no matter how you define roleplay, I think most of us fit into that category.
Yeah, the ones that like stick around, that are part of like factions, and I mean, doesn't
it's
have to be
literally
part
a
of a
requirement
faction.
to RP to be a faction, isn't it?
Yeah.
No,
I
that's
mean, the people that are. I mean, there's a lot of solos I've met that are amazing at it.
Yeah,
I think put it this way: assume half the community are role players. I'd say the other 50% are contributing to that 50% role players in a way that makes it more exciting, if that makes sense. If we were 100% role play, probably wouldn't be that much fun compared to what it is right now, in my opinion.
Joe, I gotta say that makes a lot of sense to me, because if you think about a TV show, you have the main characters, right? But you also have all the supporting characters. So not to diminish anybody's contribution, by the way, but looking at it that way, if you're considering the role players to be the stars of the show, then it's all these supporting characters that literally give them something to do.
I've always said it's fine to be player 2 on
Great
Buck.
point.
It's fine not to be the big bad evil guy or the protagonist, if that makes sense. It's fine to be a side character in someone else's story, because that's also interesting,
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'll tell you right now, I love that about my character, because the only person I'm really the main character story in is mine, but I love being available and sought out and involved in other people's stories as a secondary character. Really, I think that's where I get most of my enjoyment out of, personally.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been trying to brainstorm ideas, because a lot of the times when we like are running around and interact, like, we're very catered towards like roleplay, obviously, And a lot of the people we meet, it's almost like we're playing completely different games. And it's very rare that we meet somebody who's willing to kind of like match us in RP or like willing to like role play or pursue a story or anything like that. And I wish there were more ways that staff and like the community could incentivize people to go more that direction, because I think it's much rarer now than it used to be. And yeah, hopefully like what Dean said, it'll go back, like the pendulum will swing, I guess, but it's just kind of like, I don't think it should swing so far in the other direction, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all in pretty much, at least the panel is pretty much in agreement that we should be or are more of a role play server than anything else. But I'm getting the point. I do get the point that labeling it as such is kind of limiting, especially now that we're really unpacking, you know, all these different play styles and what they mean to each other, and that's the main thing. Even if somebody's doing something that's annoying to you, there's still a meaningful thing to get from it, you know? I mean, a lot of times the random deaths and that sort of thing really push other stories. And again, they'll push them in a direction you may not have been expecting, but it, you know, I mean, there's an early example I've used before. I'll use it real quick, where I was working at an aid station with another guy who I had just met, and he was a very non-combatant character and was getting attacked by someone with a knife and was not defending himself. He had his arms up and he was like, "Why are you doing this? Why?" And so the Reverend was like, "Oh, hold on," and popped off a few shots. Well, the guy ended up killing the Reverend, okay? And what was funny about this was that some other guys that, you know, were friendly were down the road, heard the gunshots, and were like, maybe we should go investigate that. And so they came, and now I'm dead on the coast, right? I'm doing a completely different thing now for like hours. But what I didn't know was going on was they found the guy, they captured him, interrogated him, you know, and they interacted with this other new player to the server who was, you know, again, a non-combatant. And it was interesting because, and this was a random KOS guy. This was, you know, he barely spoke English, okay? So it was like not a regular on the server. And I felt like from hearing the stories afterwards that everybody had a great time in that encounter, because, you know, all these different things happened. Different people came together that wouldn't have normally. And while I missed all of that, I also had a good time, because that was the time that I was talking about where I ran into somebody I didn't know, but who knew me or my character. And so we traveled like halfway back to Cherno together and had role playing and all. This is why I try to tell people, like, even when I get frustrated, you know, be open to these things, because you never know who is getting what out of it, you know? But one thing I did want to mention before we do stop the KOS thing, which I think we've almost bled dry, and this is something I know some folks are waiting for me to bring up. You know, we have the don't be a jerk rule, all right, which basically is exactly what it sounds like. You know, do what you want, you can be mean to each other and all of that in character, just don't be a jerk about it, don't overdo it. And it's interesting, it's interesting because there are, you know, our admin team, I still believe they do the best that they can, and have a lot of information that we don't, and there's a lot of irritating things they deal with constantly, and I understand all of that, okay? But there are, the rules seem to be open-ended and kind of ambiguous, and that's obviously for a reason. It's so that, and I'll just say it, it's so that you can pick and choose how they apply given the circumstances, right? That way it's not
the admin
hard.
Speak softly and carry a big stick. Let's put it that way.
Most definitely. One of the issues, though, that you can have with that, and it's related, I'll bring it back to KOS in a second, is, you know, perspective. And it could easily be seen like certain people are being picked on or ganged up on or constantly getting in trouble. Now, you kind of have to wonder, if you're attracting that kind of attention, you know, maybe there's something you're doing that's you know, bringing that type of attention to you. But there are times, and I'm not saying that's happened here, but I mean just in real life, where, you know, people will have you know, certain prejudices or whatever, and you know, it can feel like you're being ganged up on when it's unfair, okay? And that you feel like it's unfair, but whether it is or not, I don't know. I can't say, and that's not my point. But my point is that, to me, okay, there's one rule or a way that it's been explained to where we don't allow people to do things just for the OOC lols, right? The LOLs, just for OOC laughs. I have a bit of a problem with this personally, because I don't believe anybody KOSs anyone else for the victim's enjoyment, right? They're doing it for their own enjoyment. They do it because, oh, I wonder if I can get this shot off, or, ooh, this will be funny, or, whatever. And what makes it difficult to kind of judge what's okay and what's not is that, I've heard a situation, all right, where one person walked up to another and was like, and I don't know if this is exactly true, okay? So don't come at me with the torches and pitchforks and stuff, but say a guy walks up to you and he's like, hey, you want a grenade? And you'll be like, yeah, sure. And the guy's like, okay, here, and drops it at his feet and runs off. And then you look down and realize the pin is pulled and you die. I don't know if that's the exact case, but it's entirely possible that somebody was banned for that. Now, I personally think that's a great reason to ban somebody. But the problem is that I don't see any difference between that and laying down in a tree line, waiting for someone to walk by and just popping off a shot and killing him. There's a little deception involved, but at the same time, like I've said before, if I was to play a evil character, solo, I would probably be the kind of guy that would talk to you, because, it's like, what if I played a serial killer, for instance, who played with his victims? You know what I mean? That's a perfectly viable role.
Yeah, I'd actually argue that walking up to someone like, hey, here, hold this, and then dropping a grenade at their feet and running away, I'd actually kind of get a laugh out of that if someone did it to me, to be honest.
I'd also really doubt that them just dropping the grenade is what got them banned. I'm sure it was a culmination of things and like a pattern of them just being,
that's why I want to point out that I don't know all the details of the situations, right, that I talk about. I don't. I'm not an admin, and so I'm not going to know that. But thanks for pointing that out again, because it is important. A lot of times when things do happen, and especially when it seems like it keeps happening over and over, there is a track record and a history, again, that we may not know anything about. But I thought it just bared discussion, as to what is really being a jerk, and doing things just for, like, if you go to a community camp and you just throw grenades into a community camp, that can be considered by a lot of the community to be a jerk move. People might have been banned for it, but I would say that if they were, again, yes, thank you for the caution. It's possible that there is a track record that we don't know about. But I still, it's one of the things that makes all this murky and makes it harder to navigate. Personally, for me, it's pretty easy. Like I don't do that. If I question whether or not something is right, I just assume it's not, because, I have an inherent, sense of right and wrong. Yeah, and as a player, it's like, again, I want there to be fair play. It's like with PvP. Look, I'll tell you what, man. The other day, and I'll just say it, we had damn roll through, right? I don't know who all was there. There wasn't that many of them, but they called us out essentially. High noon, meet us at town square. High noon. And we were like, oh, holy crap, that sounds like fun. So we got a bunch of, got people together, and we were like, all right, let's go find Dam in town. And we went and cleared town, and we never found anybody. I guess we probably took too long. But I loved that idea. Like, that was PvP I was into. I was like, let's do it. Let's go find them, root them out and all this. Because it was just not, you just fall over dead all of a sudden. There was something more to it. It was like something that got our blood rushing. You know what I mean? It was exciting idea. We never found
like a
them.
challenge.
Right, yeah.
Just a guy.
Exactly. And it was definitely something that we were all into. And especially because it gave us a roleplay reason, because, again, I'm with the Black Cross now. It gave us a roleplay reason to get involved, because it's our town. We're protecting our town. And it's like, if somebody's in there causing a ruckus, then it's like, you don't know what happened to the people in the town. And that's, part of our thing we protect. So I don't know. I really like that situation as opposed to just somebody shooting us for laughs, but I guess I have that disconnect personally between, doing something just for laughs. And I get it. Like, again, I think that I do well. I don't know that I've ever been reported. And if I have, I certainly haven't gotten in trouble. But I don't know. I mean, do you guys have thoughts on that? Like the differences between acceptable KOS and the don't be a jerk kind of stuff?
I fucking love the don't be a jerk rule, to be honest. I think it's good that it's subjective.
I think I agree to an extent with what you said, but there is a logistical challenge associated with hostile RP, like I discussed before.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always possible to straight hold people up. You're not always going to catch people with their pants down. You know, if they catch you slipping, they're probably going to shoot you. So, you know,
I feel like
if the only interaction you're going to get with someone, it's either you don't do anything or you shoot them. I'm probably going to shoot them.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there are also ways to kind of, well, I mean, I say consider someone else's fun, or at least maybe, I don't know, you shoot someone kind of like panicking, and then you, instead of just like running away, you strip off their gear so that maybe some of it will stick around, and then they can come back and maybe get some of it. Or, yeah.
This is what I was touching on when I said it's hard to be a good bad guy, because there's a lot of like inventive stuff you can do that is evil and immoral that doesn't necessarily involve just shooting someone. That's the base level of entry to being a bad guy.
Like,
a game we used to play with people was if we caught a duo, we'd hand them an empty revolver and tell them there's one bullet in it. You decide who lives. Just watch them have that discussion. It was fun. I'm sure it was horrible for them, but you know, it was a fun thing to do. It was a fun game. Another thing we used to do is if someone had Kuru, we'd make a bow and arrow and shoot 3 arrows at them, and maybe one hits them, maybe it doesn't. If it doesn't, they get to go.
That's the kind of thing I like games, about the regime.
Unethical, you know, play arounds, things you can do. You know, you can't do that with everyone. Like I said, some people will just shoot and run. But if you can capture people, you don't always have to shoot them in the head. You can find some fun idea for how to mess with them. And
villain panel. I think that's gonna come soon here. Harvey, sorry.
One thing.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I agree.
One thing.
And a good guy panel.
One thing that, like, well, I mean, I point to Kate, or well, Zoki is her name is. OC. She'd play rock paper scissors with people, and Kate doesn't like losing. So if the other person wins, she breaks their leg. And it's like, who won? And then they're like, you won, of course. She's like, good. Yeah, you're correct. You get to live. And but then if she won, it would just was like, I win. Get fucked.
That's
there's a very low barrier of entry to being a villain. Like, anyone can do it. But if you're talking about people that really get like a lot of infamy or respect on Doug from being a villain, I mean, there's a lot throughout history. People like Hex spring to mind. They're all people who were constantly coming up with new, unethical, slimy ways to mess with people. And, you know, that sounds horrible when I say it like that, but it's actually quite a lot of fun when it happens.
Well, in character, that is how it is.
No, like, you know, if you and your mate get handed a revolver and you're telling you one of you isn't walking out of here, you've got to decide who, then that's a horrible scenario to be put in. But in terms of, you know, the RP that can come out of that, you get given 15 minutes to decide.
I think it's hard to be
how tense that would be. Imagine what emotions would be going through your head, things like that.
I think it's hard to be a good role player in general, and that's definitely part of it.
Yeah, I don't even mind. I don't, you know, because that came up in a recent discussion in Discord too, is what quantifies as good role play. And just for my opinion, I feel like pretty much if the things you do are related to a story that is meaningful, even if it's only to your character, to me that's role play. But it's even more than that, because it's not. I mean, a lot of people seem to think that if you're role playing, you can't be combating. The idea of role play is just that you're acting out the life of an alternate character, of somebody, you know, different, or in a different setting or whatever. And I mean, anything that you can possibly do in real life is fair game in role play if that's your character. You know, that's why I agree that it's really hard to really define it, and especially within a community of a bunch of people who have different opinions and different play styles and all of that. But I think that's really what it comes down to, you know, is just having a reason, an in-character reason for the things you do. But that's just my opinion. I mean, what do you guys think?
I mean,
I think we're all crap actors. I think we'd be getting paid money if we were good at acting. I think the important thing is to, as you said, have a narrative in mind, have justifications for your actions, even if justification is I'm a psychopath. You know, I think the main thing is to do things for a reason and to consider the fun of the other person while you do it.
I think that's a good metric to measure it by. Like, are you having fun, and is the other people around you having fun? That's pretty much all you can do.
Yeah, I guess like if you're just doing it just because you can, or if there's like a legitimate reason for your character to do it, I don't know.
But think of groups like people always sort of from the outside view it as like a, I guess, just generic psychopath group. But I think the main thing to remember is their goal is, as far as I'm aware, still to make everyone scared of them, essentially, because they're an apocalypse gang and they want dominion over their territory, if that makes sense. So of course they're going to be doing immoral, fucked up stuff to try and make you understand that they're people that you don't want to mess with.
Pretty much, yeah.
I wanted to mention this from Kate. She said, I wish I didn't have to worry OOC about what I do NC on my damn character. She wants to be cruel and she wants to do cruel things because that's just her. OOC, do I enjoy it? No. A lot of times I will hold back and not ruin their time that they take to play on the game. I really like that opinion. I mean, that perspective. I mean, of course, because you're giving thought to other characters, but I also like that you point out that it's limiting to you and it kind of holds back some of your fun because you're not able to, or you don't feel like you're able to really play the character the way you intended. Over the last couple of weeks, you know, like I said, I've mulled over a lot of this stuff. I refined a lot of the rough edges of opinions that I had in this. And I mean, you know, again, you know, it's hard when you're trying to say, well, look, man, this is what I expect, but you can play however you want, but this is what I kind of expect from you. And then it's like limiting what other people can do in that regard. It makes them feel like they can't play the way they want. And that's entirely unfair to them. You know, it's one of the reasons why I feel like it's important that through all of this, that we remember that there's plenty of room for personal growth. You know, I mean, if you really want to make it on this server and you really want to have a good time here, you know, you've got to be able to loosen up, because it's not just about you. It's not just about me. It's about all of us together. And again, that's what makes the balance hard to maintain, but again, is why it's kind of important to refresh things every once in a while, you know, kind of keep the attitudes, you know, aligned correctly, because it's easy when you get upset. And I will say also that, Harvey, a villain panel is a great idea. I'd like to say that the guys that we have today are really setting a nice precedent for having a panel with a lot of people. I think we're all doing very well today, so I appreciate that, guys. But yeah, I think we could do something like that in the future.
I've got to up my villain game to get on the panel.
I was about to say, would you put me on the villain panel or the hero panel?
Put you on the priest panel.
Villains are subjective. That's
get Akeem, Alessandro.
A religious panel.
Yeah, just a religious panel, really.
That was actually something that I was considering would be kind of fun to do. Interview the Cult of Papa, because we've talked about Cult of Papa a lot, and I know, well, today we've talked a lot about Damn, which is just because they're a very obvious, you know, evil group, who deserves to have fun just like the rest of us. But the Cult of Papa is more interesting, or can be interesting. We'll talk to you later, Harvey, because they're a secret group, you know, so, and it's like the things they do are, if I'm not mistaken, they're all alt. So it's not even like they're always there, but they are in lore and story. I mean, it's like every week I run into somebody who's got something to say about the Cult of Papa, but I've only had one known encounter with them myself. I know they've been around here and there and have stalked my character for a little bit, but you know, I find that fascinating that they can create this level of mystique and you know, I mean, tense, fear. I mean, I don't know what to call it, suspense, and not really doing a lot all the time, doing big things here and there, you know, and they are definitely antagonistic characters. I mean, the only people they'd be protagonists to are maybe themselves, and I don't even know if that's true because they know what they are. But you know, it's just I love the way I would love to talk to them and really figure out what it is that they do, how they go into their planet. But there may be things that they might not want to discuss, but I do think that would be fascinating. So just putting that out there because you guys could be anyone. So just let me know. I'd love to talk with you. So, you know, but I still don't know who they are out of character, and I actually really like that still. And I've thanked the community probably 4 or 5 times for anybody who knows for not spilling it to me, because it's just been, it's one of those things that keeps the suspense fresh, you know. There's really no way for me to blend OOC and NC together when it comes to dealing with the Cult of Papa so far. So it's just been really, really fun.
Something I will say, slightly segueing on from the cult thing. Has
Sure,
anyone
yeah.
been following these Covenant videos on the subreddit?
Actually, I have not.
So it's
I
like
have
a,
not either.
from what I can tell, it's like a sort of
I got shot one.
evil cult in Cherno, essentially, producing these very sinister
Was this like
videos and content.
the baghead stuff?
Yeah, the bagheads.
Okay, so no, not recently. I've actually only recently heard that the original bagheads might be back, and I still think it's might be. I'm not 100% sure. I guess you could tell me that. But no, when I first started living in Cherno, we had a different group of bagheads around, and it prompted me to go and research, you know, the bagheads just for my own OOC enjoyment, and found some of those videos, and I found them to be freaking remarkable. I mean, they're really well done, and kind of scary, you know. It's like, oh my gosh, you know, if I was to run up into any of these encounters, you know, I bet I would be scared, you know.
I've actually encountered a couple of the bagheads like out in the wild, and both of the interactions all the interactions actually came out alive, and it was like just really like deep and weird, but like it was really cool interactions, of course. But I was just sitting there like, what the fuck after it ended.
I guess my question would be this, like someone just said in chat, KOS is generating RP in that case. So my question for you, Boomer, would be, if you died in Cherno and then you saw yourself on a baghead video, would you feel less frustrated about being KOS'd?
Probably, yeah.
I suppose seeing the context, like, I don't know, maybe some people, maybe not everyone, can kind of jump to the conclusions like, oh, they just KOS me for the fun of it. But maybe you'd see like their perspective of it, and they'd be like, I don't know, maybe they got shot at before in the area and they were looking around and then just so happened to be in the wrong place, wrong time. Like, knowing the context can change a lot of things. And obviously, when people are scared, or like when they're dumped into a situation and they're really like high intensity, it can, I don't know, maybe like people get shot when they shouldn't. Maybe they're like jump the gun on things. They're like, oh, maybe this is the guy that shot me. Then they put them down and then realize, oh, they don't even have a suppressed gun. I was shot by a suppressed gun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Yeah, I mean, even that the KOS situation that turned into an assault that I was talking about earlier in the show. I could just say, I mean, because you should want to fight. It was Buck. No, not Buck. It was Phil from the Regime who posted it. You should go check it out. It's actually, I really was a good shot. You PvP chads probably are like, yeah, that's nothing. But to me, it was phenomenal. But I really liked seeing that, by the way. You know, because I wasn't the one that got shot at and I actually survived the whole encounter. But it was remarkable to see, because first of all he did was say 800 meters and then he posted it, and I was just like, oh wow, that's pretty impressive, I have to say. And I did totally, like, I wasn't upset about that particular encounter, but it still changed my perspective on it when I saw that, because I was like, yeah, I think I would have been pretty proud of that shot too, you know. And I mean, you know, he could
yeah.
have easily taken this shot and missed, but he didn't, you know? So it was just, I don't know. For me, it definitely added context to it, and it made it less annoying and frustrating.
I have
I don't
actually,
know.
well, I've actually been like shot on site. I think my first interaction with Dam in my time as in the Rangers, it was a firefight I got into around Novi Sobor, and it was actually after the fight I ended up fighting with CJ and Spud, and CJ reached out to me because I think I was laying in a bush because we knew that people were in the area, and I was kind of listening around, and then she just runs up on me, tries to put a Mosin shot in my back, and then the bush just eats it as it does. So she reached out to me and was like, "Hey, did that hit you?" And I was like, "No, it didn't. I think the bush ate it." But then from there, we ended up speaking like fairly regularly and got almost a pretty solid, like, out of character kind of friendship kind of sprouted just from that. I've seen also a few like clips and stuff of, I don't know, maybe throughout my dog career, like I was wandering around and I got shot from like no idea where from, and then I'd see a clip and I'd have been like absolutely headshotted from like 400 meters away. I'm like, what? That was amazing.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, man, that's really a great perspective. I'm glad that this came up because it does. I mean, it just, you know, the context means a lot. I won't say everything, but it means a great deal. I mean, because we do assume a lot of times, I do, that if somebody's just KOSing you, then they're just, you know, being a shitter. Basically, they're just, you know, doing it for the OOC lulz. But we really can't be sure of that, and it's almost unfair for us to assume that, especially in this community. You know, with and again, you know, like Kate not wanting to have to worry about the OOC when she does things. I mean, that's why I love having so many DAM members in chat most of the time on these shows, because, you know, they really do take the shovel to the face most of the time, because it's like, shit, man, how do you play a bad guy and, you know, have people not be pissed at you all the time? But the context really helps.
Another encounter, like going kind of stepping back a little bit to another encounter that kind of where I got like shot on sight, but I guess I kind of spoke to the person on the outside, and it kind of made it almost funny. I was looting the Northwest Airfield. This was on my alt back when I'd like kind of first joined Dugout, when they made their resurgence, and I open a shed and step into the shed, and then as I opened it and stepped in, another guy from the other side of the shed opens it and steps in. We just look at each other for like 2 seconds, and he had a gun in his hand, so he kind of raises it to shoot, and I just like run back. I'm like, there's a guy here! And fucking run back and try and like shoot him. I ended up dying, but then my friend who was kind of with me put him down. And then afterwards, the guy that was in there, it turned out to be Shep, who's now Clyde and Dam, reached out to me because he recognized my outfit, and he was like, "That was you, wasn't it?" And he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You want to see my clip, the clip of my end?" I'm like,
yeah, absolutely.
If I dug for it, I could probably actually dig it back up, to be honest, because I think I've still got it sitting around somewhere. But yeah, it was a funny encounter nonetheless.
That's great. Yeah, that ambush in Severograd was fun. I will say, because it also wasn't just one guy taking pot shots. There was actually a team nearby, and I actually have no good footage of it, unfortunately, because I played the Reverend a little too well. Because as soon as Forrest's head exploded, he hit the ground, I took off, and that was another thing, by the way, about seeing that clip. It actually taught me something. And I think I mentioned this before, because I thought originally the shot came from the north, because that seemed to be where the other guys were coming from. That may not have even been the case. I think they might have come up and passed. Who knows? I didn't see it, but I had no idea where the shot came from, really. When I saw where the shot was and how far away it was, I was like, oh, that's why I had no idea where it really came from, because it was just so far away and like from an area I just wasn't expecting that. Now I know that sort of thing is possible, you know, and you know, it kind of broadened my perspective a little bit. But as far as my video of that incident goes, it really, you know, I really don't have many good PvP clips, because, you know, the Reverend, he went and hid at first because he didn't know what was going on, so he went and jumped in the house, and then all of a sudden I heard footsteps all around the house, and I know they were hostiles, So I'm not going to just go walking out there, right? But I'm peeking in all the windows. I'm trying to find any vantage point I can find. I actually saw one of the hostiles run around a building and up the stairs, and I got a shot off on him, but missed. And that was pretty much it. That's usually like how my PvP goes. If I don't drop right away, it's usually me trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And then I might get a couple of shots off, but you know, you know, there's been a couple of times where I've actually killed somebody. One clip that people really love, the one where the guy was trying to beat the Reverend with his meat. If you don't know what that is, get with me later. I'll send you a link to it. It's funny. But that's just how it goes for me. I still wonder if I would embrace that aspect of it more if I was just a more skilled DayZ PvPer. I mean, probably, right? I mean, you guys, I think, are all pretty well combat oriented or salted or whatever. Seasoned. That was the word.
Salted. We're all definitely salted as well.
We're trying not to be salty, but yeah, but well seasoned.
Incredibly salted, yeah.
But I imagine that changes the perspective a good bit. And I guess I'll assume you guys agree with that. My goodness. So we are, gosh, man, about 15 minutes left of the actual show. I feel like, I don't know. I know that there's one topic that I'd like to cover before we go, which is just kind of an overview. I guess we'll hit that real quick. So early on last year, when I first started talking to people about, you know, how we play on Doug and that sort of thing, the general vibe that I got, okay, of course, was that, again, DayZ started as a pure PvP, you know, spectacle based on, you know, from Arma, a mod or whatever, and they finally released it as a standalone. It was PvP oriented through and through. Doug started and has, in my opinion, or what I've observed, has gradually, you know, just evolved basically away from just PvP, and then came into the roleplay elements, which is still relatively new considering the 7-year run of Doug. And so what the impression that I got, and what I was actually told by a few people, was that we are in a transitional period where the server is becoming more roleplay focused, and that's where some of the conflicts are coming from, that sort of thing. My question, or the topic I'd like to raise at this point is, you know, because I've been here for a year, almost a year now, and I've seen it go back and forth a bit. And so I'm kind of wondering from your guys' perspective, how you feel the overall flow of the server is, how it's changed. Are we in a comfortable place yet? Or are we migrating more? I know that there's been some KOS and stuff back and forth, more or less, but I mean, what do you guys overall feel of the state of the server right now?
I can only take a longer view on this because a year ago I wasn't even playing Doug. But people hark back to the sort of glory days of 1.62 or whatever and say, oh yeah, RP was great then, you know, the server was really fun then. I don't think we're in any worse position than back then personally. I think the RP is really good. I think game's a lot better than it was back then. I think there's probably no more KOS or PvP than there was back then either. Yeah, I don't know. These sort of glory days that people talk about, I think we'll be talking about the glory days of 2 years ago, 2 years from now, if that makes sense.
I feel like I'm a much more new perspective because I kind of only really joined Doug in July of last year. So, and I mean, I've been loving it recently. I've had a lot of like really solid interactions and like a lot of just great stuff in my time on Doug. So I mean, I look back quite fondly on a lot of interactions I've had over the past year, and more recently, it's been nice. So I feel like we're definitely in a good spot right now.
I personally feel that it is also in a good spot, but I've also been on like for about a year, maybe a year and a half. The only issue that I have with it is people need to realize it's a video game, and that's kind of why I took a few breaks, because people got really upset and just discouraged me and things that were said to me. It's just
People need
feel
to realize
good.
we're all here for the same reason. It's a pastime. It's not our job. We're all here
Yep.
to have fun on our off time.
Yeah,
It's just
I'm
not worth getting super heated over.
Yeah, most of us work shitty jobs and we want to have fun when we're playing video games.
That's kind of a lot of what we were talking about on the last show, Censor. When you popped in, we were talking about personal well-being and all of that in gaming. And I still think that harkens back to that in the overall sense of Doug, where it's a persistent world and it's like things are constantly moving. And a lot of times, like even as a streamer, it's hard to, or a content creator, it's hard to keep up with the content because things are constantly happening. And it's difficult. It's difficult to when you get in that mindset of, oh, I got to be there, I got to do this, I got to do that, or I'm going to be left behind, or I'm going to miss out, or all this. It is really hard. It's frustrating, and it's easy to take things personally in those regards. I mean, it's like if I'm, I only got like like an hour and a half to play, then and I like, oh, I'm gonna get in and get these things done, and then all of a sudden I find myself coasted out of the blue. Then that throws everything out. I may not even have time to get back to where I was or to do anything. And so then that's when it's like, it's so helpful if you don't do things like I used to do and sometimes still do, where I like accumulate a bunch of crap on my floor and I've got to be there to refresh it every so often or it'll despawn, right? It's so important to try to get away from these traps that the persistent world idea sets up for us, where you have to be on. It sucks. Like, I don't even worry about being rated. It's like if I log in, I if I'm there, I would much rather be there to interact with the raid, right? But if I miss it, if I log in and all my stuff's gone or whatever, I feel like, I'd feel a little violated, of course, but overall, I think I'd feel pretty good about it, as opposed to, like things never happening, or, me having, see, the thing is that I try not to stress about that stuff when I'm not in game. And I think that that's a very difficult thing for a lot of people to do, is to not worry about what's going on in game when you're not in game. And
I think Doug's in a good spot right now. I just think there's a lot of stuff that needs to be worked on for me to be completely, I guess, happy with it.
Well, you're looking, you're looking for more role play. You're looking for a more heavier emphasis on role play. So I can definitely understand that.
Yeah, but there are a lot of people in the community who do provide that. So I mean,
Cain also
can't complain too much.
Wants those nomads to be nerfed. OP.
No, I don't want them to be nerfed. I'm fine with them being OP, but they are OP. 100%. So we can talk about
just
that
saying.
all day.
Oh no!
I'll die on this. I'll die on it.
That's hilarious, Eddie. Yep, Nomad OP. Well, I don't know, guys. I really love playing here, obviously. I mean, it kills me when people tell me that they appreciate the things I do for the server, because literally this is the main thing I feel like I do for, contribute to the server. But I guess through roleplay and stories and adding lore and that sort of thing, it adds to it. But it's very precious and special to me. That people appreciate that, and it's the kind of thing that keeps me motivated to keep doing it. I do really like playing here. Like, I've mentioned there are certain things, it sucks. There are certain things that I question, but I don't really have the right to, and I realized that over the last couple of weeks, because I don't have all the information all the time. And even, again, as we pointed out, if somebody KOS's you, or you get randomly KOS'd, that doesn't necessarily mean that they were just doing it, for the laughs. That, there's maybe stuff going on you don't know anything about. And it's hard when, you have to keep those kinds of things in perspective in order for all of this to work. At least for me, I have to remind myself all the time, all right, well, I'll just roll with it. I don't know what's going on. We'll figure it out. And guess what? Everything I've lost, I can get back eventually. There's a real, I don't want to say it this way, but it's true. There's a real coming to God moment, where it's like, you just gotta be like, all right, well, things happen. Now, am I overall enjoying the game? That's the question you really have to ask yourself, in my opinion. Are you still getting out of the server what you expected or what you want or what you need? And if you're not, then yeah, you know, it's like the people that focus constantly on PvP. I keep saying it, and it's true. You're going to get bored. You're going to get bored here, and it happens. You know. Oh gosh, there's so many things to talk about.
I can understand that as well, because I mean, I feel like at this point, I've been playing DayZ for about 2 years, and I've been playing Doug for about 1. I feel like if it wasn't for the specific atmosphere, the role play, all the story and stuff that happens on Doug, I would have probably either, if not dropped DayZ entirely, probably taken like some extended breaks. But I've basically been playing consistently for the past year because of Doug. If not, I don't think I would have really had the interest, because before that, I only really played on those, like, I don't know, the trader servers where you load in, spawn in like Kamishovo, and then find like 5 guns in Kamishovo, and you can just run around and shoot everything that moves.
The end of the line for me is there's better games for PvP. Like, Tarkov's just better. Let's be real. The gunplay is just better. If I'm going to play like a traded server or something, I might as well just go play Tarkov. If you really want to feel like your actions are having an effect, if every decision you make is affecting something, then Doug's the place you got to do it, and that can't all be PvP. Like, it isn't all PvP for anyone. I don't think there's many people who only ever shoot on this server.
Well, that's actually kind of interesting, going back to Kate's comment earlier about you know, not wanting to have to worry about whether what you're doing OOC, you know, it's going to be okay or whatever. Worrying about your NC actions OOC so much. Gosh, man, again, so many things to say. It's again a part of the organic aspect of it. I don't know, man. I wish there was a way to just have everybody have faith in everyone else, you know, and just for all of us to realize that we're like-minded and that we all technically have the same goals, and, you know, and we could just have faith in each other. But I understand why that's kind of a ridiculous ask, but I don't know.
Main way to do that is, I think, for people to put themselves in other people's shoes regularly. I think Dam's Warboy Wednesdays are really good for that, because you get to see how they play, and you get to see some of the challenges they go through in their play style, and it gives you some perspective. I think if a good guy group were to do something similar, I personally would take part. I'd encourage other people who play sort of villains or antagonists to take part, and I think it would be a healthy, you know, sort of growth experience for people.
That's awesome.
I mean, I feel like it speaks volumes to how great something like Warboy Wednesday is that I participated in it, and then within like a couple weeks ended up actually taking the leap and joining Dark as Midnight.
I realize now I'm actually kind of tooting my own horn, because I set that up with Iris and Traven. But that's exactly what it was for. At the time, we set it up partially to recruit people, and it's nice to hear that it did what it was intended for.
It fulfilled its purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
All right, Torture Tuesdays. Let's go.
There you go.
Fridays.
Well, I was man, there was like at least 2 other topics that I had forgotten about earlier that I wanted to bring up, but they're actually good topics for their own shows, especially if we want to talk about Wipe, which I kind of think it does warrant its own show a little bit. Wipe is a tough thing for different people too. We could probably pound it out pretty quick, but that plays into a lot of the boredom that people get into. Fergus, you and I talked about this a little bit.
Yeah, we did.
I can just bring it up if we felt the need to really unpack it another time, we can. But the point of what I had brought up, and we had a really good conversation about it, was that it's unfortunate when you have like a big group, for instance, who's constantly going out and looting or taking things and bringing them back and all of this stuff, that it's easy. I completely understand how easy it can be to be bored, because you have everything you could possibly need. The only thing that you have left to do is to go out and screw with people. And so it's like when you get a wipe, you know, all that stuff's gone. So you guys immediately get to go back out and enjoy that aspect of the game. When you're in a smaller group or solo, gosh, man, it's really hard when you're solo. But I mean, it's like right now I've been working on, you know, I've gave stuff to the Black Cross early on, but now I'm kind of working on my own church thing again. And, you know, it's like slow going. It's not impossibly slow. Like, I'm doing okay, but it's still, it's like, you know, here we are, what, 3 weeks, I think, in the wipe. It's actually not too bad for having gotten started on it this soon, but you know, it could take someone like me a good month or so to build up, you know, or like even a smaller group trying to build up their base. It could take weeks and weeks. But sadly, you know, with the number imbalance, groups like Damn, not singling you guys out, just you have a lot of members, can go out and collect all this crap and bring it back and be in a similar place you were in quicker than a lot of other people can, which easily explains why, you know, you guys want to go out and cause conflict and all this other stuff. Again, just that's the role play that Damn has. But it also explains to me, having seen some other sides of this coin, that why it's easy for people to get frustrated if things happen too soon for them. And it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate imbalance that we have, because you know, it's like you guys want to go out and do things, and people want to interact with you, even in aggressive ways. But it's like if they're not ready for it, then it feels like they're being dogpiled on and are unable to, you know, build up and go. But then how fair is it to expect you guys to wait just because another group has smaller numbers? Or, you know, it's like you guys, again, have to put too much OOC ahead of your NC to try to make sure that people aren't having a bad time. I can tell you personally, the things that I've seen Damn doing personally, I've actually enjoyed and thought have added a lot of story and things to our area of the map. So I'm not complaining like at all, but it made me think about it, because I was like, geez, man, because these guys are already out, you know, tearing people down who barely have even gotten a foothold yet. Again, not something that is your problem, right, or Damn's problem, or any other aggressive group's problem that has a lot of people. It's just, gosh, man, it's like that's the real kick in the nuts about wipe, you know, because
that,
if it's
I
like,
can
yeah,
see that side of it as well. I mean, obviously, wipe does slow down a lot of like RP. It's kind of clips the wings of like a few stories for a while. There's a few times I've seen like a really big overarching story kind of get halted or put on pause basically because of a wipe. But at the same time, I do really like the freshness that comes with it, because I mean, I've always see myself as quite, I enjoy looting and running around and feeling that kind of little bump that you get in your head when you're like, oh, it's a 4-dial, oh, a box of nails. But like late wipe, that's kind of like, oh, 4-dial.
Yeah.
We have another 20 sitting on walls in Gorka.
Yeah.
Great, another one.
Yeah.
I really do like that kind of side of it. And I mean, obviously, wipe time is like a really fun time that gets like a lot of people, they come back to the server if they were taking breaks, and everyone's just running around like headless chickens, like grabbing stuff. And I mean, I feel like wipe doesn't necessarily mean that like RP stops. It just depends on the person. Like I've seen, hell, like a couple days into wipe, you'd go up to the dugout and then you'd have like Audie and Lewis and Jack and everyone just sitting there like, hi, welcome to the dugout, like things is normal. Obviously things aren't as built up as they normally would be, but people still make an effort. It's not like it's just Doug turns into a deathmatch server for the first like month or so. But I feel like, yeah, there is undeniably a lot more shooting and PvP and stuff like that than there normally would be. But I feel like that's just the kind of...
How long has it since wipe?
It's been... Last wipe was on the 13th, and now is the 10th of August. It was on the 13th of July, so it's been almost a month.
Almost a month, yeah.
Okay. Because it's been a while, and people keep talking about it like since we started. It's like, I feel like it's kind of over, right? Like the wipe hype and everything.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
it's very much kind of settling back into the nitty gritty of like your average Doug experience.
Yeah, I have to agree with that as well. But I will tell you that, you know, wipe for me is always a mixed bag. You guys know, I think I've been pretty clear that it's not my favorite thing in the world. Mainly for the reason that we just talked about. But, you know, with the whole rebuilding and all of that, you know, and in the power imbalance in that regard. But, or the perceived power imbalance, because I don't even say that that's a real thing. I mean, if we had more friends, it wouldn't even be an issue, you know what I mean? But this wipe, like the last wipe, I actually had to create an alternate character so that I could still continue to enjoy the server, because my character was just not was just not going to run up and randomly kill people, and was just getting randomly killed by a lot of people. So I ended up creating an alternate character to play for a few weeks, and then ended up bringing the Reverend back and have had a great time. This wipe, it was never even a question. I've been playing the Reverend the entire time. Again, you know, the KOS had been extremely light for me this time, so I really don't have any complaints personally. But I do feel, I mean, it was weird because I was reading Discord and hearing, oh, how it's constant KOS all up and down the map and everything. And I was just like, well, for once, that's not my experience. So, you know, it's like, I can't really add to that. But I just feel for people that, you know, have a hard time, like after a wipe, because once you have your footing established, to have a wipe, and the thing that does make wipe fair is that it happens to everybody, right? It just takes
Equalizer.
it just takes more time for some people to get on their feet than they would like. Again, if you have more friends, that's less of an issue.
Oh yeah, I mean,
you know,
I feel like it's always it makes sense that like a bigger coordinated group of people, like, well, damn, is gonna have a much easier time like getting off the ground than random.
You guys are coordinated?
Sometimes you'd be surprised. But,
times changed, huh?
A big gaggle of stupid fucking war boys running around picking up shiny things and hoping that they can appease their great overlord, top hat wearing Harvey person. But no, it's obviously I did spend like one of the wipe days where I was solo, and even I mean, I obviously quite like looting up, and I'll admit, actually, before the wipe, before that specific wipe, me and one of my friends were just messing around at Tizzy. I think we were just walking around with like SKSs, just shooting zombies, and one of us got like swarmed, and I was just like, oh well, I just coasted myself and was like, wipe tomorrow anyway, it doesn't really matter. And I just kind of ran around on the coast like a crackhead on that day of the wipe, just looking for stuff, like as everyone does. I feel like it kind of clears the air and freshens up the server a little bit, but I mean, yeah, it can also stunt the progress of some things.
Yeah, I guess that kind of comes into play where it's kind, I guess, to think about the OOC aspect of it. Realize, well, we did just have a wipe. We have a 30-person group who's already rebuilt everything, or at least gotten to where it's like we can definitely go out and cause conflict. But in recognizing that other people quite haven't gotten to that point, because it could almost feel like an abuse situation. Again, not talking about damn, just in general, where it's like, oh, let's wait for the wipe. We'll go out and rebuild real quick and then just go mow everybody down. I do not 100% do not think that that's the thought process, but it can feel that way. And so I guess this is kind of why I wanted to talk about it, because people who feel that way, first of all, should have 100% confidence that you can contact the other party when you know who they are out of character and be like, dude, look, can you give us like a couple of more weeks maybe? Or, you know, because again, we're all here to have fun, and bullying people out of character is not fun, really.
No, the health of the server and the community is definitely something to be considered. And I mean, I feel like I really speak for anyone in DAM when I say that like DMs are open. If you have a problem, please reach out to us. Like, we'd much rather like sort out a problem than have it fester and grow into something even worse when it could have just been sorted with a, hey, can you maybe ease up on us for a couple weeks? We've been having a rough run of it recently, like, something like that. We last wipe during the Pistoshka situation, and how like obviously 506 were dealing with wanderers and they had like their plate full at that point. We made a little bit of an agreement with them of, okay, we'll not like go out of our way to mess with you during this, just because we don't want to like, oh, we've just been wiped out by wanderers, now then we just got raided into the ground by DAM, what can we do? Like, this is like, we didn't want to like make someone feel like they were being pushed off the server or something like that. So it's little agreements like that that I feel can go a long way.
Now, I had also warned people, because we kind of mentioned it a little bit, and we're talking about it in chat a little bit, is that the only problem with being able to contact people OOC is that you have to know who they are. And if, and we go around and plain PID sometimes, or do, there are ways that you can't, just random KOS, you don't know who it is necessarily. So you just kind of got to suck those things up. But it's always, now here's the thing, right? Because we say you can contact people OOC. I personally don't think that there is a problem with going to members general, if you're a member or something, and mentioning this. But the difference is, and the way I see it happen to where people will dogpile on you, is if you're showing up just to complain and whine and cry about it. And there's a very big difference between coming up and being like, hey, look, guys, I don't know who's doing this, but we're having a really hard time. If you're approaching it respectfully and not being, a jerk about it and pointing fingers and all that, the community will be more supportive, I think.
There's definitely a distinct difference from coming out hey, I don't know who's been doing this recently, but we've had a lot of this going on and we're not sure who's been doing it. We wanted to see if we could reach out to someone. But then another thing I'd point to is shortly after I joined there was a firefight we got into at Northwest Airfield, and I think one of the guys dies, and we look at Doug General and just instantly see "fuck you" at NWAF. So I feel like there's two distinct approaches people take, one of which is not so great, and then the other one is much more civil and agreeable.
That's pretty funny. I mean, I just think that if we can remember that as Joe said, it's if we can just remember that we're all here essentially for the same reason. And then we realize that most of us are adults, and most of us are very civil and very, very easy to get along with. Out of character, it's okay to be comfortable. It's okay to reach out. You should get to know other players. I really do like the idea of Warboy Wednesday on Thursday and things like that, because it does give you an inside look. There are a couple of groups I've considered redshirting for. Unfortunately, for me, it's a little trickier just because the Reverend kind of knows most people to some extent, or most groups or whatever. So it's kind of harder for me because I haven't gotten to that point to where I'll just shut it off, and not worry about who we're going after or what we're doing. But I would really like to be able to have that experience personally, just so that I, can get to know people a little better. Maybe people that you have conflict with, you might not, OOC conflict with, you might not have so much if you've already had some kind of understanding and gotten to know people. I mean, there are people that I've had conflict with that I'm thankful that I did know a good bit beforehand, because even then, we could still be kind of butt heads. But at the end of the day, it's you kind of agree to disagree type of thing, because it's we already had that connection at some point, and it's why throw that away when we could just be civil and friends and be good. Thank you, Nutbar. Nutbar's always looking out for me. But all right, guys, why don't we wrap it up? Is there anything else that you guys wanted to bring up, or we could just just go for it? Yeah, sure, Joe. We'll start with you, buddy.
Oh no, I was just saying I'm happy I said my piece.
You good? Okay. Dean? Fergus?
I'm good. I think that's covered quite a bit.
Yeah, Censor? You good, buddy?
I'm all good.
Okay. What about you, Cain? I know you're like...
no, I'm good.
You sure? Because I know you're like...
A little bit distracted.
Okay, fair enough. All right, guys. Look, we'll thanks, guys. We'll wrap this up. I really love how this went. You guys were a fantastic group. I hope you all felt like you had an opportunity to get your say. Maybe we'll do this again with the panel, because I really like that idea, and I'm glad that this worked out so well. I'd really like to have the another admin show eventually. It's been about almost 6 months since we had the last one, and I had to cut that one short. So maybe I'll reach out. And we'll see. If you guys have any show ideas, anything, topics you want to see really discussed like this, please reach out to me and let me know. I've got a couple of ideas, but again, it'll keep me out of Discord, and that'll make me happier. But
Just
We'll
leave
just have
it.
to
Liberate
see.
yourself.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Now I do have some schedule listed on my ending thing. I have not decided on what my permanent return schedule is going to be. We're going to keep doing the gaming workshop on Tuesdays. I don't know if I'm going to keep streaming DayZ all the time. I kind of want to branch out and do some other things again because I just like to have fun doing lots of other things. But I think that I'm definitely, as long as we have a whitelist on Wednesday, I think that I will continue to do. It's going to be whitelist Wednesday. Hey, there you go. I'll definitely be doing Doug then. But we'll see how it goes. But right now my schedule is really up in the air, but we'll still be doing the gaming workshop Tuesdays at 2 Eastern. And just really glad that you guys appreciate it and are a part of it. And
Actually,
again,
I do have an idea. Sorry.
oh yeah, go ahead.
It's probably best for next time because it'll be a long discussion. But like the idea of false flagging and like not wearing your faction armbands and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of a problem. But actually, an idea for next time.
Yeah, that's a great topic, actually. Yeah, because that one's actually come up before. I have notes on that, so we'll definitely do that soon.
Cool.
But anyway, all right, guys. I guess that's gonna do it for today. Again, I appreciate my lovely panel. We had Joe Fraser, Dean, Fergus, Mack, and a little Becky in the pre-show. Yeah, you should make sure you come show up a little early next time and witness that. Censor and of course Cain the Messiah. I was gonna do that. I was gonna do the whole let's get ready to rumble thing, but I didn't want to set up the wrong idea.
Get ready to rumble.
But I did. I practiced that. I was like, oh, and I got to do Cain last because it's gonna be Cain the Messiah. You know.
I think it.
I'll tell you.
It sounds like an epic rap battles of history intro or something like that.
Dude, we should do Doug rap battles.
Doug rap battle.
That'd
be sick. All out of character beef settled.
Yeah.
We just meet and like
1v1 me in the dance.
In game. In
You're
game.
talking-
1v1 me with words.
You're talking to somebody that likes Jackbox games, dude, and there's like that one rap battle one that always goes wrong. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's really
I think
fun.
I know which one you're talking about, actually.
Oh my gosh. All right, guys. All right, that's it. We're out of here. I think I've got an outro thing still going there. Oh my gosh, that was super loud. We're not going to do it that way.
It was fun, man.
I'm gonna
I
do
think the
this
villain
horribly.
panel that he suggested is a really good idea.
I agree completely, and yeah, we're definitely gonna do that. Okay, I see what I did. I'm gonna semi-pro. That's all I can say. Semi-pro. All right. I'll see y'all later.
Let's all get on Doug and KOS each other now.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
it. Yes. Yes.
I'm looking out for you, especially Dean. Gonna KOS and Radio.
Let's go hunt each other down.
Sounds romantic.
I'm gonna wear damn armbands, start chaos and everybody.
All right, later, everybody.
See ya. Cheers.